Hey Ebro fans, this is Todd, and today we're going to talk about what's known as the 8-back. The 8-back of He-Man. So let me go ahead and pull this out. And this was the original 8-back we got when we were kids. They came with one of the 4 comics, and there are all the figures. And on the back, you know what, I got a zoomed up version a little better than this. Hold on, let me get the zoomed up version. There we go. And on the back we had He-Man and Teela and Beastman and Stratos and Merman and Man-at-Arms and Zodac and Skeletor. And then of course we got 4 comics like this in the package as well. And they were, let's see, we had He-Man and the Power Sword, King of Castle Grayskull, Battle in the Clouds, and The Vengeance of Skeletor. And these comics kind of gave us a little bit of play-by-play of who was who in the zoo. And it's funny, if you go through all these comics, and as you go through them, I happen to have it in my giant book of comics here. Okay, let's take a look. Snook took a look in the cookbook. And here we go. And here's the first one, He-Man and the Power Sword. And as you go through it, you see that He-Man is this Tarzan-like character. I love this idea. And the sorceress is green. No, not the sorceress, but Teela is green. And it's like, what? Green? How did she become green? Anyway, and then he gets his weapons and his armor. And you can see the bad guys here are Beastman and Skeletor, and He-Man's all decked out here, and he's checking out Teela. Ooh, there's Teela, and he wants to make her his bride. Soon she shall be my bride. How weird is that? Come on, Skeletor. You are quite the stalker. Anyway, so then we go on, and we see Teela fighting Beastman, and Beastman carrying her, and what is this? Who is that right there? Take a look at that character there, and that is no other than Stratos. Stratos, why the heck is Stratos hanging out with the baddies? Kind of interesting. And so you'll find out as you go through these comics that the good guys and bad guys are not totally 100% identified. And so we have, you know, like the monstrous looking people are the bad guys, but you as children who are playing with the toys, the comics were just kind of a story to help you make up stories, but you could choose who you want to be, the good guy, the bad guy. They were all masters of the universe in their own right with their own mastery skills, and sometimes these guys would team up, and your team ups can change. When my kids were little, we just picked figures at random, not just He-Man figures, but all of them. G.I. Joe, what else did they have? I think they had some Star Wars stuff. They had He-Man, of course, but not a lot of it. And I can't remember all the figures they had. They had a lot. They had Last Action Hero. I don't know, just a ton of stuff. Anyway, and whatever they picked, that would be their team. Good or bad, didn't matter. But you can see here they had some people that were pretty much identified as good guys and bad guys, and some that were not. And so the ones that were definitely identified as good guys were, of course, these 3 here. He-Man, Teela, and Man-at-Arms. And you can see them here all together as a team. And the ones that were definitely identified as bad guys was Skeletor, Beastman, and Merman. So it's kind of interesting when you see the comics and they're broken down. The roles keep changing. Now here they show Stratos as a good guy, but we saw in the last comic he was a bad guy. And we can see here Merman is blue instead of green. And so there's just some different variations as you go through the comics. Now, as you go through all these 4 mini-comics that came with the first 8 figures, you will find there is no mention of one of the 8 figures. And that is Zodac, our cosmic enforcer. He is not listed anywhere in the comics. So you have no clue if he's a good guy, bad guy, or what he is. When you had your first 8 figures of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Now, I know we've had lots of debates through the years of who Zodac is. People say he's neutral. Some say he's a good guy. Some say he's a bad guy. Well, part of my discussion today is to end Yes, it is to end the debate on who Zodac was originally meant to be. But we'll jump into that in a few minutes. Let me go ahead and put this back over to the side. And let's go ahead and break down those 8 figures that we originally got in the Masters of the Universe line. Now, besides these 8 figures, it also came in this set, not in the set, but in the same year released, we had the Battle Ram, which the Battle Ram is that really awesome blue vehicle. The Wind Raider, that was the flying green and orange vehicle. Battle Cat, and Castle Grayskull. Now you think about it, these are monumental things that came out at the same time. I mean, I love the Battle Ram. I love the Wind Raider I don't love, but it's really cool. Battle Cat's a must, and Castle Grayskull is awesome. In fact, Castle Grayskull never belonged to the good guys or the bad guys. It was just whoever possessed it at that time, and there's even a flag to rotate it depending on who had possession, the good guys or the bad guys. It was like a capture the flag kind of deal, and it could change hands. So that is what made some of this so cool. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the figures. I'll just start right at the bat with He-Man. He-Man! And I remember I was in, I think it was Kmart, and I was walking through the store with my best friend Mike, and I saw a He-Man figure out of the package on the shelf, and I picked him up. And oh man, my excitement was going through the roof, thinking how cool this figure looks, and I was sold at that minute that this is like the coolest figure in the world. Because at the time I had Micronauts, I had Star Wars figures, and a couple random weird figures here and there. But when I saw this, I was like, this is so cool, Mike. Now, that day I did not leave with a He-Man figure. I actually ended up leaving with some Zoids, which kind of bummed me out because it wasn't for years later that I actually got my first He-Man figure. That was actually He-Man. The first figure I got was Skeletor. So here is my Skeletor. Now, he didn't come with the cape normally. This was just a cape from from Batman, 89 movie Batman. I'll take that off. And so here is Skeletor. And my version also had the half boot, and I thought it was just because it was just cheap manufacturing. And I also noticed that his sword was also in half. Now remember, I didn't have He-Man yet. All I had was Skeletor. So I thought this was a deal when they made the cast. They only filled up half the mold, and that's why it was a half sword. I had no idea about the combining of the swords or anything else till quite a long time later. So we, of course, had Skeletor. And I used to have Skeletor run all over the place, and he was the only character I had at the time. So he was my main guy, not just my main bad guy, just my main guy. It's like I had this blue hulking figure, and he was doing all kinds of stuff, and I was just so in awe with the awesome muscles all over him and everything else. And then as time went on, I got other figures in the line. In this particular grouping, I think the next one I got was Zodac, and maybe Zodac and Merman. So let's talk about Zodac. Now you take a look at Zodac, and Zodac has the exact same body as Skeletor. Hey, wait a minute. Except for his furry, hairy chest that is the same as Beastman's. And so I used to pretend like this was my He-Man, because at the time I finally started watching the cartoons, and I didn't have a He-Man figure, so he was He-Man with a mask on. And so this was my He-Man figure for a very long time. And I think I might have had the weapons pack. I don't remember by then, but I know I had something for the sword. I forget what it was. I think I stole Skeletor's sword. I don't know. But anyway, so this was Zodac, but it's funny is he has the evil claw feet. He has the evil claw arms. But on the back of the box, it didn't say what he was, just a cosmic enforcer. Neither neutral or heroic or evil or anything else. He just was. And that's it. All right, so then I started getting other figures. I got getting Triclops, but I'm not going to bring him out. He's not one of the 8-back, but I will in a future video. This is my top 11. And I started noticing something interesting. Triclops had the same arms as He-Man. And what I noticed was they were not the same. You take a look, He-Man, he's got this massive bicep that's just has a peak on top, where Skeletor still has a good sized muscle, but it's not the same as He-Man's muscle. Even on the left side, you can see that as well, that He-Man's more developed than Skeletor on the way the muscles look. They are more defined, Even in the shoulder, you can see the shoulder is way more defined than Skeletor. So as a kid, I noticed these details, that the He-Man build was bigger than the Skeletor build. And then here's what's even weirder. Let me go and pull out Beastman. Beastman. No, Beastman. Now, when I first saw Beastman, I did not want him. Like some kind of clown figure to me. I was like, what the heck? What's with that clown? I didn't understand how cool he was back then. He just looked kind of weird in the package. But eventually I got him. And if you take a look, his bicep is even different yet. So if you put these in order, you have He-Man's biceps the biggest, then you have Skeletor's bicep a little bit smaller, then you have Beastman's bicep, which originally was smaller than Skeletor's. Now this is the commemorative figure, they made it a little bigger for some reason, but I was a kid looking at all three of these lined up, and I pretended like Beastman because he was an ape-type creature, that his muscles, even though they weren't as big, were actually stronger because of the way it was made, just like how ape figures are, or ape animals are, where they have this crazy strength beyond what they should for their size. More dense muscles. So that became my standard, and I started noticing that different figures had different biceps depending on the figure. So then, of course, I had Merman, and Merman had the same arm as Skeletor. And then we got Man-at-Arms, and he had the same biceps as He-Man. And then we got Stratos, and he had the same biceps as Beastman. And like I said, as a kid, I'd actually noticed these differences. You could see right here, looking at the front, at how skinny his bicep is in the front here. While Skeletor's is much thicker, especially the left arm here. This looks really cool. And then He-Man, of course, he's got the big old baseballs for biceps. And so this always intrigued me as a young kid playing with action figures, their different muscles. Now, why am I bringing this up? Why is this like something I am fixated on? Well, when you got classics, they all had the exact same bicep piece. Every single one of them. Didn't matter if you were Skeletor or Merman or Beastman or He-Man. And it actually bothered me for quite a while. It was like, come on, Mattel. It would have been so cool if they would have made it that each one had their own bicep according to the size that matched the original figures. And so that I wasn't tempted at one time to take and resculpt a bunch of biceps and try to make that work. But I was unable to make that happen. I just didn't get around to it. And then we noticed one figure did have a larger bicep, and that was Fisto. They gave him a big old monster bicep. And if you take a look, the Fisto figure does have a larger bicep than He-Man does. It's kind of funny how they actually did that in the original toy. Anyway, so I thought when they came out with Origins, that they would rectify this problem and that we would see a return to the original concept of different size biceps, but no, they gave us the upper arm right here is the same on almost all the figures. So even if you have Beastman, or you have Merman, or you have Skeletor, or anybody else, you will see that this upper arm is the exact same for a ton of figures, which still kind of bums me out. I don't like that everybody has the exact same size arms. I kind of wish they would have gone with just like they did back in the 80s, where He-Man had the biggest muscles and a few of his comrades, and a few of the other people on his team did, as well as some of the heroic warriors too. So, there we go. So, of course, we did get one girl on the line too, and that was Teela. But Teela was never meant to be one figure. You were supposed to actually get two of her. One to wear the headdress, which made her into the magical Teela, and one to not wear the headdress, which made her into the Teela that was the warrior Teela. So, as a kid, I would swap the armor off and on, and pretend like she transformed. Being there was no Prince Adam at the time, just He-Man. He-Man did not transform when I was a kid, but Teela did, and nobody knew she was the same Teela when she was the sorceress Teela and when she was the warrior Teela. She would just change out the armor, and she was two different people, but really the same person. So it's funny that in my storyline that she was the one that transformed. All right, so I've been talking a lot about these figures. let's go ahead and talk about what their mastery skills are. So we have Skeletor, and he is the Lord of Destruction. Lord of Destruction. So he is the master of destruction. He's the Lord of Destruction. So Lord means master. So there we go. And then we have, I got the stuff right here. Then we have Merman. He is the Ocean Warlord. So he is the master of the ocean. And then we have Man-at-Arms. And it just says right there, Master of Weapons. So he's a master of weapons, but he only has one club, which always seemed kind of odd to me. Here's your one master of weapon. So there we go. And then we have Stratos. And Stratos was the winged warrior with no weapons. So you put his arms up and he would fly with his jetpack. Very cool. And what's funny about Stratos is, like I said, he sometimes was a good guy, sometimes was a bad guy. He was never in my top 11. He's not like a go-to figure for me. He has no weapons. He basically has Beastman's body with a different head. And it just seemed like this wasn't a lot to him. I mean, yes, it was cool he could fly. But if you take a look, though, we have a man of the water here and a man of the air here. So we have water and air taken care of. All we need now is land. And land is Beastman, the Savage Henchman. Okay, well, that's kind of where it's called Savage Henchman, because obviously his whole role was to be Skeletor's henchman. But in reality, I always had him the master of land and beasts and stuff like that. So then we had like our Aquaman, we control the ocean. We had the Beastman, he control the beasts. And then we had this guy here, and he control fowl and things like that. So we had land, sea, and air covered right there. And to make things more fun, Beastman was always loyal to Skeletor. No matter what, when I played, he was always Skeletor's henchman, hence his name, Savage Henchman. But these two would change sides quite often. Merman was not always the bad guy, and Stratos was not always the heroic guy. Why not, right? So they kind of had their own things that they, to them was important, and if it was important enough to join the bad guys or important enough to join the good guys, they would join whatever side's going to help their cause, sea or air. So that is kind of how that played out. All right, so then we have these three. These three are always the good guys in all the comics. We have He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, which means he's just really strong. And then we have Teela, who is the warrior goddess figure. So she's either warrior or she's magical, both in one. And there we go. And of course, it's kind of funny if you take a look at just these three by themselves. You have He-Man, the main guy. Then you have his best friend. I'm his best friend. And then you have his girlfriend, because you always saw them together in the comics, having picnics or whatever, you know. So poor Man-at-Arms is always kind of a third wheel. I mean, we have the two buds hanging out. Oh, high five, right? And then we have him with his girlfriend, but he's just left out when Teela's around. It's like, what the heck? So that's why we have to have two Teelas, so they can hang out and be buds too. So there we go. Okay, back to the last figure, which we have not talked about, and that is our Cosmic Enforcer. Cosmic Enforcer. What does that even mean, Cosmic Enforcer? I mean, there's no definition of it. Is he like a policeman? Does he give you speeding tickets for going too fast? I mean, what exactly is his role? I mean, all we had on the back of the box was Zodac. Cosmic Enforcer number 5044. Nothing specific about what his role is, what he does, or anything else. Just this cool looking guy with armor. Comic books, nothing about him in the comics. It's totally didn't even mention him. Where Stratos would straddle the line of good and evil. Merman, always evil, but what the heck, sometimes blue. Henchman, he always hung out with Skeletor and did his bidding. And then, of course, we could see that he is the Lord of Destruction, so we know he's a bad guy, and he's got a skull head. He's got to be bad. And then, of course, our three heroic people. So that leaves us this guy here. Now, a lot of people grab Zodac and just make him heroic because he kind of matches the other three. I mean, he looks kind of very similar in their aesthetic, and so that's kind of what some people would do. And that makes sense. But, as we know, more figures came out. More action figures came out. And as more figures came out, we got more cards that told us more information about the characters. So let's go ahead and look at 3 of those cards. Let me turn them around here. Not the best angle of them. And let's go ahead and look at the first card here. And the first card is Beastman. That doesn't make sense, but what the heck. And in Beastman, we have, this is the 12 back now. We have He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, and it tells us these are the heroic warriors, and they're in blue. I made a computer program a long time ago on my VIC-20, and I used these cards, and I typed heroic warrior, and I did it in blue, and had a whole database that I created for the figures. And we can see Stratos. Okay, Stratos is a good guy. We got that. Manny Faces. Oh, and then we have these 5 are my favorite 5 right here. Bam, 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 bam for the heroic warriors. Sorry, Stratos, you're kicked out. But Manny Faces is so cool. Ram Man, you gotta have him. Now we get down to the evil warriors, and there he is. Zodac, and they added the word evil. Cosmic Enforcer. So that kind of helped us decide, wait a minute, he's not a good guy. He's not neutral. He is evil. Okay, well that's just one card. So let's go ahead and take a look at another card. And this card right here is Teela. Teela. As we go on the list, we see we got the same 6 baddies listed, or good guys listed here. And then this one, we have, well, it's actually the same guys. This one has Beastman, and the one didn't have Beastman. And now they call him Evil Henchman. Before he was just Savage Henchman. So they gave the word evil to him. And they called him Evil Ocean Warrior instead of just Ocean Warlord. I guess it still says Warlord. So they added the word evil to all their names. Now he is the evil Lord of Destruction. And now he is the evil Cosmic Warrior. Evil Cosmic Warrior. There you go. He's evil. This guy's evil and sees everything. And he's evil and armed for combat. So, what? He's got his side on there. Oh, I'll just scan that in. That's funny. Look. This one here, he didn't have his little side piece on there. And he has no jaw either. This one, he's got both his jaw and his side piece. The one I have on my poster that I have on my wall here, let me grab it really quick. Oh, I pulled my nail out. Here is the one I have on my wall. And sure enough, here I have the one that has no mouth and no side piece. So I have got to update that and re-release my posters. See, here's my top 6 baddies. These are my favorite 6 right there. All right, so with that, sorry, I'm digressing now. We can see Zodac again, evil Cosmic Enforcer. We got one more card back to look at. One more card back. And let's take a look at this one. And this one is Stratos. And we can see again, we have a lot of the same heroic warriors listed here. And then we have the evil baddies. I thought I had one that had... Oh, I do. This one has Faker. I could have sworn I had one that had Faker on it. Evil robot of Skeletor. Anyway, that was the first one I looked at. So we can see here again, Zodac is evil. Now, it's confusing because we also saw in the Filmation cartoon, they made him a good guy. And in 2000X, they made him a good guy as well. So it does have some confusion when we get to the cartoons. But the original intent was evil. Now, again, I'm not trying to sway anybody here to get everyone to say Zodac's evil. I really don't care how you play with your toys. When I played with them, he was He-Man. So come on, who am I to say how you're supposed to play with them? But just so you see, when they first made them, they did not designate who was good and who was evil. They were just 8 characters. And you just assume he's evil because he's the Lord of Destruction. That in itself says is evil. Henchmen are usually always evil. The rest of them are kind of up for grabs at that point on which team they join to. Because Ocean Warlord, there's no evil word in that, unless you look at the word warlord as an evil word. And then we have, everybody else is just who they are. So if you look at it that way, these are 8 masters of the universe. They don't actually have any designation of good or evil. They're just so. Then it kind of makes it really fun. In fact, it kind of bothered me when I got older, not much older, that they told me who were the good guys and who were the bad guys. It kind of takes away some of your playability of how you want to do it. I mean, when my kids were little, the good guy was Skeletor quite often. Actually, one time, the good guy was Merman, and he was like the good guy, and He-Man was the bad guy. And so it's just funny depending on how the kids played. In fact, Jitsu was a good guy for many years with my kids. So it's just more fun to not have that designation of who's who in the zoo. Then you can have more fun playing. So when my kids were little, I never let them watch the He-Man cartoon, and I also didn't tell them the names of any of the characters. So they got to name all the characters whoever they wanted. All right, back to the original 8. And where did I put He-Man's sword? These guys are just all over. Here it is. So when I eventually got He-Man, my first He-Man I got was Battle Armor He-Man, not this cool one right here. And by the way, these are all the commemoratives in case you didn't know. You can tell by the lip around the foot right here. But when I first got my He-Man, I was so surprised about these swords. Because my original one was flat with this dent in there and these little spots. I thought these spots were the pore marks where the tubes were to fill the mold. And then come to find out, they match up with the other sword. And bink! You got one giant sword. And this sword could then be used to access Castle Grayskull and everything else. Now, I know I saw it in the mini comics, but I never really connected it until I actually had the sword in my hand. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I don't know why they lost that in the cartoon, but that is like the ultimate Easter egg hunt, or the ultimate, tracking down the 2 swords of power to gain the ultimate power in the universe. I thought that was cool because whoever holds the swords holds the power and has the access to the castle. So I just thought that was the coolest thing when I realized that. So there you go. Ultimate power. And He-Man never used the swords in the comic. He always used his battle axe. The swords were like the treasure they were searching for. So the original comics, this is your He-Man. Like that. No sword. And this was your Skeletor like this. No sword. They came with the sword so you could play out the searching for the swords of power and having your battle stances set, and then eventually you take them and you gain access to Castle Grayskull. Whoever has the swords has the power. Anyway, I love the original 4 mini comics and many of the comics that came afterwards. I love the split sword idea. They didn't do it very well with classics. It just was too weird because they were too flimsy. But with these ones, they're just fun to pull in and out and put together. All right, so that is the 8-back of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I think I covered all the gambits of the different characters. We have Earth, Wind, and Fire. I mean, we have Earth, Sky, and Ocean. And then we have our 3 heroic people. And then we have our evil cosmic enforcer, who everyone says is neutral. But it just didn't work on the cards that way, and it wasn't spelled out that way. So, there you go. All right. So what I want to know from you guys, as you hear my story about them being all whoever they are and not in any type of order of evil and good, let me know in the comments what you think of that. Do you like that better, or do you like it being spelled out where they told us who were the good guys and who were the bad guys on the back of the cards? So let me know what you like better. Us being told heroic, evil, or you get to choose your own destiny on who's good and who's bad. And I just want to, I'm curious. Also, tell me your own stories. Let me know, what was your first figure? Were you part, when you were a kid, were you part of the 8-backs? Did you actually get an 8-back figure? or did you come in later after the 8-backs were long gone? So let me know. And that is all that I have. And I gotta fix this. All right. Until next time, good journey. Good journey. And I will see you next video. Bye now.
If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Do it.